What is this thing? How's it gotten so jacked that it just buffers a long time? I got the right chair.
Man, that's good. Huh?
I don't have nothing up behind me. Can you put my picture up real quick? Having trouble connecting. Okay, I'm gonna try this again. Whoop. Hello, Louisville. Guess who's coming to dinner? Hey, Louisville. My girl's a little crooked. I got it. My girl was a little crooked. How are you? Happy Friday once again. Once again. Today's one of those strange days that our history naturally catches up with us. We might need to shut the door, baby. Thank you. Our history catches up with us once again. Today is the anniversary of 9/11. I'm quite sure a lot of people remember where you were on that day. I do remember I was still in Las Vegas and stunned. And as I stood there watching the planes go into the World Trade Center, unforgettable time in our lives. It changed our lives. It brought us together. If you can remember back that far, 20 years ago, brought us together. Another country attacking us for hating us for who we are. And right now we do the same thing within our country. White folks hating black folks for who we are. We didn't ask to come over here. I'll be glad when they get that understanding. We did not think we were going to sandals, that we were going on a cruise ship. We did not think that at all. You know, we had a community. We came from a community. We came from royalty, tell the truth. We came from royalty. And we were brought here and treated less than human. But getting back to the, it just, comes sometime you just got to go the other way. It just says, we look at what happened to us and how we felt, how another countryman's people treated us, thought about us, thought less of us, that they would just kill that many of our people for no reason, for no good reason, but for no reason really, and then how we treat one another. So we got to find some love. It's all about love. Love is humanity. If you have any humanity, you should have a whole lot of love. And on that note, you see, I got my sister girl behind me today. She kind of brings Miss Emily into the picture. Miss Emily is my mother, for those of you that don't know, who is no longer with us. But today I'm going to bring a live and in living color sister, soul sister. She has penned the name Edutainer Extraordinaire. That would be no one other than my girl, Miss Marjorie Marshall. What's up, my sister?
It's got to be you, sis. It's got to be you. You the one.
Wow.
I'm trying to catch up.
Marjorie, we have bonded, huh? Over this last year, we have, you and I.
Oh, yeah.
We weren't close, but we have bonded through a whole lot of different ways, huh?
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. That's what time does bring about a change. And it also elevates us to levels that not only did we not entertain before, but that we never knew existed. So, once again, as you say, we begin to love ourselves enough that that love filters down and through the community. It takes on a life unto itself.
Yeah.
The circle, the link expands. It
Yeah.
slowly. That's what we must do, is link up and create that circle that is constant. That
Yeah. Let me go
again.
back, Margie. I'm gonna
Hmm.
start back.
Sure.
I need the audience to know that I am speaking to the newly elected
Hmm.
president of the Kentucky, I didn't say Louisville, the
Mm-mm.
Kentucky Music Heritage Foundation, Miss
Absolutely.
Marjorie Marshall.
That's me. That's me.
Hey, congratulations. Kudos, my
Thank
sister.
you. Thank you. Absolutely.
Well, tell me about the Heritage Music Foundation.
Well, it was started back when a gentleman named Robert Butch Williams, a local musician, uh, producer, songwriter,
Mm-hmm.
and Ron Lewis of Mr. Wonderful Productions, and myself, many years ago, we initiated a group called LAMP, the Louisville Association of Music Performers.
Oh,
And
okay.
back when 537 was on 28th and Garland, there was a gentleman named Godfrey Radford, and he was
I
killed.
remember that
You
name.
remember Godfrey? Yes.
Mhm.
He played with the Unhooked Generation.
I remember,
And
girl. You know, I
they were
remember
one of our
Unhooked
premier,
Generation.
yeah, one of our premier local bands years ago when Harvey Fuqua had the recording studio over there on 28th and
Behind Little
Greenwood.
Palace on
Yes,
28th and Greenwood.
yeah, 28th and Greenwood.
That's where we used to
So,
go rehearse.
yeah, I know you're right. So, Godfrey played at the 537 and
Hmm.
he was killed. And the family was trying to put him away, and all the local musicians bonded together to do floor shows and showcases to raise money to, as a collective, give to the family.
Right.
So the first one was so unique because everyone wanted to show their love and respond,
Hmm.
that it became something that the community wanted all the time. So
Hmm.
we began to work with nonprofits in the city to showcase. We created the showcases, and we worked in collaboration with the 501c3s to raise money for their organization, and allowing us to again show what we were all about, what we love to do, sing, dance, be it a comedy, whatever it was, whatever the
Hmm.
local artist was about, he had a platform to do so. So the Kentucky Music Heritage Foundation has grown from that, in that when it was formed, the
So you
mission.
all started it.
Oh, yeah, absolutely,
Oh, okay.
absolutely.
Okay.
Along with the Pearls, it was a lot of people back during that time. James Gann, it was a lot of
So,
you.
so I
James
wasn't here
Baker.
then.
No, you weren't here. James
Okay.
Baker. I found out one of the drummers that played with the
New
New
birth.
Birth just recently
Right.
passed.
Right.
The uh, all those guys that had come back home, so to speak.
Right.
We worked all together to just create functions that not only made the community aware of who we were, but again, exposed the talents that some people never knew anything about.
Hmm.
So when Lamp, it necessarily disbanded, but it kind of fizzled
Figured
out.
out. Okay.
And Robert Butch Williams was, I think the story is, he was coming back through Lexington one day down there in Winfrow Valley, where they have, it used to be called the Kentucky Music Hall of Fame. And Butch went into the museum, and of course, that's where all of your great country singers, were on display. They had exhibits in the history about all of these musicians, but none of them were African American. And so Butch questioned it. He said, "Why do you not have any African Americans in this museum?" And they said, "Well, who you talking about?" So of
Hmm.
course he bought it to him. He said, "Well, well, let me backtrack. There was two in there. There was Lionel Hampton and
Okay.
there was Lionel Harris, who was big gospel star back during those times.
Okay.
And so, but there was no other history of any other African American artists there.
So not
So,
even
but
Marianne.
no, no, and that's the segue. He said, "Well, how about Marianne Fisher?" They didn't know anything about Marianne Fisher. So Butch,
Okay.
along with the director at that time, created a display
Okay.
about Marianne, and then when he took the stuff down there, took her some of her artifact and memorabilia, and her, we took her there also. Then
Now
of course he
let
took.
me hold up, Margie, so I can tell the audience. When we're talking about Marianne Fisher, for those of you that don't know, she was the Louisville native that sang backup for Ray Charles, but she also was a solo artist on in her own rights right here in Louisville. Am I right?
Absolutely. And
Okay.
she never was a backup singer. She was the first featured female singer to
Okay.
ever sing with Ray Charles. Now I'm sure at some point in time on ever what recordings there did, um, she may have been in the background, but she was never a Raylette. That was one of the stories that she
She was
loved.
not considered a Raylette.
No, she was
Okay.
a
Okay.
featured
Featured
solo
artist.
artist, as you
Okay.
said. And she was not a Louisville native. She was born in Henderson, Kentucky. She came
Henderson.
here as a
Oh,
child
okay.
and lived here for most of her life in between her travels to New York and of course all over the world performing with so many legendary artists that I mean the list goes on and on. But however, she always considered Louisville her home.
Okay.
And
Okay.
after having toured and performed with Ray Charles from 1955 to 1958, she made Louisville her home.
Okay.
And in fact, Ray
So
Charles,
go back to the foundation there. You all got the foundation up and running.
yeah, we have the foundation again was established to speak to the history of artists that hail from Kentucky, in
Okay.
particularly Louisville, Kentucky,
Okay.
because you know we have songwriter producers like Philip Mitchell and who wrote for so many
Normal
legendary artists.
Thomas.
Yeah, and like you say, Lionel Hampton. You know, we had Sarah Martin. I mean, we can go all the way back to the
You
early
know,
1800s.
Margie, Philip Mitchell had he won a Grammy a couple of years ago for one of his songs with a rap artist.
I
And
played
so
it.
he's still writing and
Yeah,
making
Philip.
big
That's
time
what.
music. Shout out Prince Philip.
Yeah,
Shout
Philip.
out, baby.
Philip. I mean, he he wrote hits for a whole bunch
Oh,
of
a lot
folks.
of people.
I think
Yeah.
that was really Philip. You know, I grew up as a young girl. There was a group here called the Checkmates. I don't know if you remember him. It was Philip, McCorder, Earl Stallard. I think Richard Basure. Oh, TC. I don't know if TC was a
TC
member.
Wiggins.
Yeah. Curtis Wiggins. Oh
Yeah.
man. When as a young girl, I mean, that's where I really got bitten by the bug because they would rehearse in my aunt's living room, and I
Okay.
would sit. Yeah, I
Okay.
was their audience. I'd be sitting on the couch with my eyes all wide open, just swooning. You understand? Because they doing that doo wop harmony and jumping all around and twirling and swirling. So that's really where I got. But music has always been a passion of mine. Loved it.
Mm-hmm.
However, those guys were integral in inspiring me as a young
Okay.
person to want to entertain. Now, I never had the opportunity when I was younger to do that except aside from church. I always sang in church. However,
Mhm.
I never did sing in any other clubs or any other type venues. So when I began to record in the late 1900s with Lamont Butler, the late Cliff Butler's son, and we were doing gospel music. And then
Right. Okay.
Butch, who happened to be our musical director at that time, decided that we were going to do secular music. Well, that didn't work for the group, and so you know how you stop and you start up again, and you stop and you start up again. Well, long story short, down in Winfrow Valley, where we made the
Where is
constituency
Winfrow
aware of,
Valley?
it's called Winfrow Valley.
Okay.
It's a museum. It was a music museum. It used to be called the Kentucky, mm, the Country Music Hall of Fame
Okay.
was the former name. Now it's called the Kentucky Music Hall of Fame.
So where is Winfrow Valley?
It's right in between. It's a little bit outside of Lexington,
Oh, okay. Okay.
Kentucky. Yes, it's a beautiful facility. Has beautiful. I mean, we've got a major display down there now because eventually, after the initial one they set up for Marianne, and again, Butch took all the memorabilia down there about the Moon Glows, Marianne, Sarah Morton, Helen Humes. So again, when they found out about all of these artists that a lot of whom hailed from Louisville, they gave us a whole. We've got a really huge display down there, and actually, the year that they inducted Ricky Skaggs into that Hall of Fame,
Mm-hmm.
Marianne Fisher and I had the pleasure of being a background singer for her. We opened up for that show
Okay.
a couple of years after that, they were inducting the Moonglows into the Hall of Fame,
Okay.
and some of our local artists, Alan Fry, the Pearls, and Ron Lewis, went down and channeled the music of the Moonglows for
Okay.
that particular inductee service. So
Wow.
The Kentucky Music Heritage Foundation was brought to life because we wanted to secure the history of all of those individuals and tell it right and tell it
Mm-hmm.
straight, because a lot of times, information gets convoluted. And so I
We don't get
found
to
that
tell our own story.
we don't get to tell our own stories. So the Kentucky Music Hall of Fame was formed for that reason. And of course, nonprofits, 501c3s, all right, the major thing that must happen is fundraising. And a lot of people don't understand that about fundraising.
Mm-hmm.
And, as artists, because it is most of the time the livelihood of musicians,
Right.
you know, it seems that it's always just about the money. Well, we must understand that it's not just about getting paid. We need to understand that it's about making sure, as you just said, that we tell our own stories
Yeah.
and not allow for what someone thinks or what they heard to be what you adhere to, and that's the last hurrah. So,
That is the truth.
yes,
It's not the truth.
yes, right. So, um, for the past 6 years now, this year will be the fifth year. The first year, it was doing well because there's a
Mm-hmm.
gentleman named Doug Van Buren who resides. He lives in Atlanta,
Mm-hmm.
and he used to own a record shop here, and he was a DJ. And he's Caucasian, but when I tell you historically, he knows everything about everyone that ever recorded here in this city. So he has this vast, wonderful collection of artifact. I'm talking about he has cylinders and music and recordings that go all the way back again to Sarah Morton, who began recording in the late 1800s. And so,
Wow.
I mean, his collection is just, I can't tell you the things that I've become made aware of in since my relationship with Doug. And for almost 2 years, we had a room over at the Kentucky Center for African American Heritage. They were kind enough to allow us to make our uh, the Kentucky Music Heritage Foundation visible to the public and show a lot of our artifact, and actually used to do in-house small shows in there. We had bourbon and baroque because again, there are so many genres of music that black people initiated,
Right.
because back in the day they called them minstrel shows,
Right.
and then when it was the other half of our humanity, they it was vaudeville.
Right.
But many times those vaudeville entertainers were taking our material and copying it, as we know
Right.
well about the race records. When just like with many of the old major major entertainers, and especially the groups, they would record a hit, going all the way. Every time I think about what's Tina Turner's husband's name?
Ike.
Ike Turner. when he when he wrote that song about the car, and the car something 98 or 50, ever what it was. I don't want to say it and have it wrong, but he wrote this hit. He put it out. It got some airplay, but when the other constituency century recorded it, it reached number one. So a lot of that stuff
Well,
happened,
that's
and
like
so
that's like the Elvis Presley story.
exactly because
Like Chuck
Elvis
Chuck
Presley
Berry,
did,
Chuck
yeah,
Berry did it first, and then Elvis did it second.
right, right. Well,
Oh, look,
when
no, no,
Elvis
no, no, no,
recorded
no.
the
That
Big
was
Mama,
no, hold on. That was Little Richard did it first.
oh,
And Elvis
absolutely, he's the
Presley
king
did
of
it.
rock and he's the real king of rock and roll.
There you go.
Absolutely.
There you go.
Bop
But
bop a loo
Margie, hold up.
bop down boom.
I gotta move you
Come
in
on,
another direction about Margie.
okay,
Miss
Marjorie,
Marjorie. Miss Marjorie. Excuse me, darling.
Miss
Marjorie.
Marjorie.
Marjorie, darling, please tell me. Tell me how you came up with Edutainer Extraordinaire.
Well, I love education. I have a 501c3 called ACE, Academy of Cultural and Historical Excellence.
Okay.
And when I was doing the program, I because our history is so intense
Right.
and so vast, many times a lot of people don't like to read, they don't like to study, they don't like to research. So the professor that I worked with to create this program, I suggested to him that we turned it into a theater piece. And I had to convince him because he couldn't see. I said, well, the information is so intense, it'll bore people. I said, if we
Right.
turn it into a theater piece, I said, we love color, we love song, we love dance. Turn it to a theater piece and they'll be involved. Went over like gangbusters. It was wonderful, right? So
Mhm.
when I saw how people reacted to that a medium, it was a no-brainer for us to take and begin to take information that was very, very vital and information that we should be aware of it
Mhm.
and present it in a manner that we made it entertaining instead of just
Okay.
these are facts. So
Right.
when you take something that's factual, like I created the Marianne Fisher story, I call it the real Marianne Fisher story, Songbird of the South. So
Right.
I tell her story not from the a perspective of her having performed with Ray Charles. I tell her story about
Her
where
story.
and who she
Right.
was before Ray Charles and
Right.
even after Ray Charles. And so because she was my mentor for 18 years and I personally knew her,
Okay.
the project just takes on a whole other aspect of her life. It brings, I mean, you really, if you didn't know her, I found so many people who are still living that had the pleasure of hearing
Mhm.
her perform, and not only that, but that were friends of her,
Mhm.
really close acquaintances of her. And I get so many stories about her that this kind of again underline and elevate the story that she always told me, because a lot of times people think that we're embellishing, but when
Mhm.
a whole bunch of different people from a whole different walks of life tell you the same thing, then it's true. And that's why I thought it was so important to bring Marianne's story in particular to life, because
Excuse
again,
me.
we
Oh, excuse me.
bless you, we get rid of a lot of the assumption and the hearsay, because even when they made the movie about Ray Charles, that's when I really decided to
To tell
direct
her story.
my passions there, because they besmirched her character and I
Okay.
knew that that wasn't who she was. So
Let me
the
let me let me say this.
Mhm.
I gotta give you a chance to breathe every now and then.
Okay, every now and then, yeah, because I get it, honey, I'll tell
Well, I
everything.
mean, look, I know, but you've lived, you've kind of lived her. You brought Marianne Fisher back to life for us.
Absolutely. Because we
Because
created the after Winfrow Valley. Now, after we did that exhibit there, she lived in Russellville, Kentucky for a short period of time also, because she was adopted out there.
okay,
And in down there, they used to the N word. They used to have it for August 8th, Juneteenth. They
hmm
called it N Day. Well, we were integral in getting them to change that name to the Marian Fisher Blues Festival. And
Oh,
then they
that's
have little
beautiful.
small row houses down there that they made little mini museums. So we have two museums in Russellville, Kentucky that tell her story. And then they have about four other. They have one museum down there that's dedicated to Black servicemen. And then one that is sadly is about, they call it the lynch room, and they tell the history of many of the stories about people,
Okay,
brothers and
this
sisters that
right,
were murdered during
right.
Jim Crow. So, again, if we don't tell our own stories, not only do they not get told, but even when they are told, they're told from someone else's
Thank you.
perspective.
Let me
So,
ask you this, Marjorie.
hmm
How do you what the things that are going on in our city today? Okay.
hmm
How do you see us as entertainers being able
I see
to
us being on the
wait a
cups.
minute, hold on, let me finish answering
Oh,
the
okay. I'm
question.
sorry. I apologize. I thought you would do.
No, how do you see us being able to be a part of the solution as far as um, mentoring our young adolescents? Because I'm going to say adolescents,
Hmm
um, and I'm thinking not so much the adolescent as it is that teenager, that 15, 16-year old to 25-year old, because these are the ages that seem to be having the problems with dealing with problem resolution, that they don't know how, that the only way to deal with it is to take somebody's life.
hmm
But this city is and always has been a very talented, a city full of talented people. And I
Absolutely.
don't think our youth have enough out, in my opinion, have enough outlets to explore their to nurture their gifts. So how do you
Absolutely.
see us as entertainers, and you as being an edutainer? That means you want to educate them somewhat about what an entertainer's life is like and what it should be, and how we share the love. So how do you think we reach them? How do you think we become a part of the solution?
Again, by developing platforms, going into venues, allowing and reaching out again as veteran entertainers ourselves, developing programs that allow them to develop and understand their skill sets, because
Right.
music is the melody of life. There's always some kind of music. Just like you say, we can start with jug band music, who was originated by blacks, and come all the way up to hip hop right today, and and see how important music is as a viable avenue of smoothing things out, of making things better. Because again, it's like that call and response, a holler
Right.
that was
Yeah.
developed in the fields by our foreparents. You know, they crying out in pain and weariness, but the sounds that came out of them that were even mournful brought relief to them. It allowed
And it
them
was
to breathe.
also the way that they sent messages from one
Oh yeah.
area, one region
Oh yeah.
to another. They
Oh
sang
yeah.
the same songs,
Oh
and
yeah.
they knew what they was talking about in those songs, so everybody had an understanding.
Exactly.
That's what makes us unique.
Oh, absolutely. Just
That's
like
what
when
makes us
they thought
unique.
that, like I said, when they wanted to ban the use of the drums, because just as you say, there was
Right.
a form of communication that no one understood
Understood.
but us.
Right.
But even after they did that, we still found another avenue to go down that still allowed us to get the message out there,
Right.
to bring us together, or either say, run, whatever what we had to do. You understand? We did it. So music and the kinds of programming and places and spaces that we again have to really begin to make the community as a whole become accountable to, growth and integrity start in the home. and we laid down that we have no filter anymore. We have no guidelines anymore
Well,
overall.
let me say this, Marjorie. Now, when I go back in my mind,
Hmm.
see, I go back to a lot of those community centers that we had. We had
Hmm.
Baxter, we had Grace Hope,
Hmm.
we had California Community
Hmm.
Center. Um,
Limbrick.
Actually, we had Limerick, we had Southwick, we had Cotter
Hmm.
Holmes
Hmm.
community centers, but we also had programs. We had Jewel McNary dances.
Oh yes.
We had Anita Moore
Hmm.
then Anita Neal
Neo. Right.
La Rock Lanita Rockettes.
Hmm.
Okay, but those and now we've got the drum corps
Right.
and we've got the West End Choir.
Hmm.
That's not. We still need some more
Of course we do.
because all of our children don't are not fitting in. We
Right.
need to find a place for them to feel good and be. They need to have something to be proud about. I
Absolutely.
don't think they're proud about anything. That they're doing anything that makes them proud of themselves.
Yeah, because everything that we see and hear in media is negative, especially
Absolutely.
about us. And
Right.
so, you're constantly dealing from coming from a space of anger and frustration instead of, like when we were coming up, we could wake up excited and inspired about what we
Just
might,
about anything.
yeah, what we
Okay,
might
let me
do.
say this. We were inspired. We thought we were taught we could do anything.
Anything.
These children don't believe that they've got an opportunity to do it. They sound hopeless.
Everybody wants to
I
be a
hate to say
rapper.
that. Huh?
Everybody wants to be a rapper. It's like that's all it is to it. A piece, I watched the
But you
piece.
got to be able to write in order to be a rapper.
Exactly, exactly. And the terminologies, if we understood the difference between a word and a term right now, our language would
Would
be
change.
different.
Yeah.
And that in itself means that our communication skills would be elevated and we would better understand, see the difference between hearing and listening. we
Preach,
would be
sister.
and we would understand, you so silly, we would understand the difference in our communicating with one another,
And
learning
how
to
to communicate.
yeah, how to communicate and
Because
respecting one
we get
another's
lost.
thoughts.
We
We
get
don't respect
lost
one
in,
another's thoughts.
okay.
See,
I
because we
think
think it's
we
about
get,
having an opinion.
okay.
It's irrelevant.
But hold up now. You got to
Okay.
give me a break.
Give me
I'll
a
come
break.
in.
Don't
Here
get it,
we go.
girl. Get it. Get it.
We have to be able to, number one, respect each other's opinions.
Yeah. Yes.
And we have to be able to, Margie made me throw my thought away.
I'm sorry, baby.
Be able to listen to each other in order to help each other grow.
Hmm.
If you can't, it's not how I said what I said, but
Hmm.
did you hear what I said?
Absolutely.
It's not how you say it, it's what you saying. But we get caught up in the how. He said something to me like I was, no. Maybe they're
Yeah.
just saying something to you, maybe that you hadn't thought about. You may or may not agree with it, but first you've got to let that soak into your brain before you react to that.
Understandably so. But
Yeah.
again, we've been programmed, if you will, by a society that cares nothing for us, that their initial purpose was to continue to make us hate ourselves.
Yeah.
And self-hatred is a we have a psychological disconnect with ourselves because we were operating from the premise that we always had to prove ourselves to someone.
Okay,
No
so
matter
what we gonna do about it? What's the
what
solution?
we're going to do about it is again create the kind of programming, demand that these facilities that are still in our community open their doors to programming
Right.
from the community. Say, you look
Right.
here, I need for my child, I need churches even. It should start in the home and in the churches. Absolutely, I
Right.
figure.
Right.
because again, those are the places and spaces that we can go to, that we can feel safe. It
Right.
has a certain a guideline of discipline and order that
And
must be,
respectability.
exactly, must be adhered to for
Hmm.
it to even happen. So we have to redefine ourselves for ourselves and stop comparing ourselves to a standard of self that has nothing to do with
Has
us.
nothing to do with us. Absolutely nothing.
Has nothing
Our
to do
whole
with us.
culture and pop culture per se,
Hmm.
they are diabolically opposed to each other.
Absolutely.
Okay. So our children need to know that what everything that they see on television is not the culture of an African American
Mm-mm,
per se.
mm-mm, mm-mm.
You know.
We were too busy trying to be look like and be like the other to be ourselves.
Right.
When I was a very young girl, and I never, you remember when our parents, we couldn't wear anything above our knees, as far as the dress. Well, I always loved long dresses because I thought they were sexy. I thought they were alluring. I think,
Hmm.
and I wasn't trying to show my legs. Sometimes now people say, "Oh, you got legs." I've always had legs, and they're
Hmm.
pretty, even if I say something sad. You see what I'm saying? But I ain't got to show you my legs. You understand what
Right.
I mean? So,
Right.
but the way that I identified with me, I dress my ethnicity, my innate understanding of me allowed me to represent me then just like I am now. However, just because we put on kente cloth don't mean because if you don't know where kente cloth comes from
Yeah. If you
and
don't
what
know
each of those colors,
how black are you really?
right, if you don't understand what each of those colors mean and the different designs and patterns, what they mean, you don't have no business wearing it. You
Uh,
really don't, because it's sacrilegious. See, we have some things uh, that we've made. What is it? Commercial.
yes.
Like Bobby Womack
Like
said.
if they become the norm.
Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
So everybody's doing it and everybody's wearing it, but most people don't even understand why.
Yeah.
Is this something to do? So we've casually put aside our purpose, and we've casually not adhere to the responsibility and accountability that we have to one another. So, what do we do
Hmm.
to engage these young people? We stand in front of them and we educate them. We say, okay, look at here. I saw a young woman today, point in fact. I saw a young woman today. I used to work at the Youth Detention Center, JCYC.
Mhm.
This young woman was 10 handfuls. I mean, baby, she was wild as a cootie bird. You understand what I'm
Mhm.
saying? But all of the girls, I always had mostly the girls unit, and even the young men. When they come at me hard and be trying to cuss and fuss and whatever, and I really began to get into young people seriously when it became a thing where we had to do mandatory overtime. My normal shift was from 11 to 7. When it came about, we had to do all this overtime. I was on 7 to 3. So I was in there during the period that they supposedly were in school, in class.
Right.
What I found out, 75% of those children could not read.
Right.
They could not read.
Right.
But if you give them some art material, you give them something to do with their hands, their brilliancy came out. You saw not only what they were capable of, you saw them doing things that they love to
You
do.
do.
And it
Right.
wasn't just about sports. Well, the
Right.
young girls, of course, that was the precursor to now, to where it's only natural that we call one another as women. See, because I said there's females, there's women, there's ladies, and then there's everything the farm implements. That's what I call them. When we begin to address ourselves and accept uh, ourselves as being farm implements and all this
Mhm.
other that they want to, hey girl, and now all of a sudden, what you used to not want to be called, not only do you answer to it, but you get mad if I call you by your real name, the one, your birth name. You see,
Mhm.
so these young girls were so angry and embittered, and I would challenge them to do it differently. I'm in Thornton's earlier today, and when I saw this young woman walk in, I thought, wow, you know, but it was something familiar about her.
Mm-hmm.
So just so happened as I'm getting ready to check out, she's in front of me. So she turns and I see her profile and I said, Tanisha? And she turns around. She said, well, I had a mask on.
Mm-hmm.
And she goes, oh my God, Miss Marshall. Is that Miss Marshall? And here we go, right? And I used to challenge her, and she could write. She could write prose. She could write poetry. And she was a beautiful young woman.
Mm-hmm.
So now she's telling me, oh, Miss Marshall, I'm so happy to see you. I thought I saw you, blah, blah, blah. She said, guess what I'm doing now? So she's telling me now that she's a spiritual consultant. And I used to challenge her all the time. I said, baby, you don't have to become what the system says
Says
you
you
are.
right,
You
right,
don't have to do that. You
right,
don't have to buy into that because they don't care. They don't ever want you to get out of here because you're a part of a business that
right.
they want
This
perpetuating.
that it's an institution.
Yes.
This was
I
set.
said, so
It
you're
was put there for a
systematically,
purpose to
yeah,
hold you down, to
right.
hold you back,
And keep you as a
to keep
number,
you
as a
inferior.
statistic
Right, right.
for their deep pockets.
So
So
Marjorie, listen, we've got a lot of work to do.
absolutely.
I think that
We need our own schools.
uh,
How
true,
about that?
true.
So
No, we
how
need
about we say
an
to the
art
city
school.
fathers? How about we say to the city fathers? I ain't talking about no charter school. I'm talking about one that
An art
again,
school.
huh?
We need a performing arts school.
And that too.
That's not a part of the school system.
And that too. So who
Okay.
says we can't do it? They got all of this money that supposedly they want to put into the West End per se and quote and to
Right.
start businesses, new businesses. Why not we bond as
Because
you,
we need
I, and
if we
people
don't
like
save
us?
our children, we don't have much of a future to look forward
We're
to.
not have any future to look forward to, because even though people are having babies and children everywhere, they're coming, they're not being educated properly.
Right.
Once they get to a certain age, all they do is go stand on corners, or like you said, become what they get pharmaceutical reps for a pharmaceutical that destroys them.
Right. So let's
So,
do this.
mhm,
Let's get together. Let's brainstorm. You and I. We're gonna get
uh-huh,
together on another day and time because
mhm,
we've already been together and talked about doing some things together. But let's follow through.
right.
Let's follow through. And I want to say thank you so much. I know the baby's coming around and her timing is impeccable. She did good. Uh, I want to thank you for being my guest today. And it's dinner time. So,
Yes,
March, we go have dinner. I love you. And I'll
I love
talk to
you
you soon.
too.
And we applaud you. We applaud you.
Oh, well, I appreciate it and thank you so much. I mean, I applaud one of our people. That our tenacity and will to keep on keeping on
Keep on
until we
keeping
get
on.
it right. As Aretha said, we're gonna do it till we get it
Get
right.
it right. All right, baby. I'll talk to you soon.
All right, dear Hardy, be
Love
blessed.
you.
All right, so bye, Miss Janice.
Bye,
I
baby.
said Miss Janice.
There you go.
That's
Right, Miss
right.
Candace.
All right,
See
sweetheart.
you, Marjorie. Bye, darling. That was Miss Marjorie Marshall. Wow. Sometimes you start out talking about one thing and you get down to the meat of it. When you get to the meat of it, it's what are we going to do? What can we do? What do we need to start working on? Even if it's not happening now, I know that there are, I'd say at least maybe 150, 200 fabulous musicians in this city that if we all got together and everybody with their own individual talents and their own journeys and what they've learned along the way, be able to share their life story with our youth, maybe that could be a help. I mean, it could be something as simple as having a jam session where we're jamming with a conversation about the music, how we got to the music, how we keep the music alive, without playing an instrument, because it could be on Zoom, and then we could do some instruments on Zoom. So, Marjorie, did you hear what I said? So that's what we're gonna talk about next time we get together. She's still down there listening. So, I want to say thank you so much. I'm glad everybody tuned in today. But I want you to know this, that on Monday, this Monday coming up, I've got another one of those outstanding guests, Louisvillians, that's all that, and the nation knows, the world knows. Our very own sculptor, Mr. Ed Hamilton, will be my guest on Monday. Yes, darling, I'm very proud to have Ed Hamilton here. He's done so many beautiful works. I got to see. I mean, aside from everything that he's done here in Louisville, he did the civil rights monument that's in D.C. of the Black soldiers, and my two great uncles' names. My two great and a great and a great great. They might be great greats, but I know they're great. Their names are on that monument. And so when I went and found their names, I put my fingers up under them. And I got to do this, and my mother got to see it before she passed away. So I'm so glad that we're going to have Ed with us on Monday. And next Friday, we might be doing something special with Miss Marjorie. You know, we'll save that. You know, we have to work up the promo on that, how Miss Marjorie wants to work that out, let you in on a little bit of what she's working on, what she's doing. Marjorie is very busy in our community. She's all about the music. She's all about Black folks. She's all about educating folks about us, you know, our history, keeping it alive, telling her story and our story, instead of letting other people perpetuate a lie. Most of the time it's a lie. Didn't happen. Or if it did happen, they left some parts out. So see, we need to become inclusive, as they say. Our whole history is inclusive. It happened. I don't care what they say. It happened. You can't act like it didn't happen. That critical race theory, all of that stuff, all that information, all those good things, those bad things, they happen. That's all we're trying to say when we say we want to have it. Should it be taught in school? Sure, why not? It happened. You know, you can't dismiss it just because you don't want to speak about it, but you can't dismiss it, because then now we've come to the point where African Americans are instilling more of our culture into our children. And the more we do that, I think the better grasp we'll have on our children, because we've got to feed them. They're not being fed. They're not being fed. That's why they're running rampant, because they're not being fed what they need to be fed. And I don't mean McDonald's. Okay. So it's dinner time. Guess who's coming to dinner? Bon appetit. I'll see you on Monday when our guest is none other than Mr. Ed Hamilton. Take care. Good night.